King Canute. He was the King of England from 1016 until 1035, and from 1019 then also the King of Denmark, and 1028 onwards also the King of Norway. His father was the King Sven Forkbeard, a Viking king, his mother Gunhild. And his predecessor in England was Ethelred II. He then died, and then King Canute was having severe battles with the son of Ethelred II, Edmund Ironside, for who becomes the king on the throne. So Ethelred II dies, has a son who was already fighting against him. King Canute had invaded in 1015 England, and his son, Edmund Ironside, son of Ethelred II, was fighting against King Canute. The people wasn't really seeing the support of Ethelred the Unready to his son Edmund Ironside against the invading Vikings under King Canute. They saw him as a bit as a rebel, Edmund Ironside. And Ethelred the Unready, by the way, has the byname the Unready because he wasn't really decisive on how to deal with the Danes. He tried to pay the money that they weren't doing attacks and so on. He also attacked them, ordered massacres, was getting the money, so he wasn't really good how to prepare with them. Now then, in 1015, King Canute invades. His son Edmund Ironside fights against him. 1016, Ethelred the Unready dies. Edmund Ironside and King Canute fighting for who is leading now England. They're having severe battles. In the Battle of Allington in Essex, where then King Canute defeats Edmund Ironside, they meet at the Isle of Ailmay in the River Seine River Severn in the middle, on an island, and they agree on sharing the kingdom. Edmund Ironside is murdered, and Canute becomes the whole ruler of England. And he rules, and he encourages Christianity, and he appoints Saxon and Danish people to become priests. And he is treating Danes and Saxons equally. And he marries Elgiva. With her he has Harold Harefoot as a son. And he marries Emma. With her he has Hafagnud as a son. Both wives, if I understand it correctly, were married to Ethelred the Unready. Now, and these two sons, when after King Canute had died, battling who becomes the king. They even die in 1040 and 1042. And now it goes then a bit on, and it becomes, then the next person becomes Edward the Confessor, becomes the next king. Edward the Confessor is also a son of Ethelred II, if I'm correctly. And now Edward the Confessor then at one time is then in exile in the Normandy, and where he promises in return for the helping of the Duke of Normandy, him to be the next king of England. We're talking about William the Conqueror. Then Edward the Confessor goes back to England, and he changes his mind, and he decides to give now Harold of Wessex the kingdom. King Canute had split up the country into 4 earldoms, into Wessex and Northumbria and Mercia and East Anglia. What happens now? Duke of Normandy, William the Conqueror, is not so happy that he is not getting what was him promised, the kingdom of England, after Edward the Confessor had died, the son of Ethelred the Unready. And he invades England, defeats them in the Battle of Hastings in 1066, Harold the Saxon king. Now, and somewhere in between is the story of King Canute. And that is according to the history of the kings and queens of England and Scotland, written by Edmund Swinglehurst on the pages 22 and 23. Hi and welcome. I'm trying to learn medieval studies, today King Canute, and after we've done that we're going to do stretching. And if you participate in the stretching, then it's very at your own risk. And we read it once, and we're going to read it now a second time, and we try to prepare a presentation based on these information on these pages. King Canute, reigning 1016-1035. His father was King Sven Forkbeard, the Danish or Viking king or something. His mother Gunhild of Poland. And the next thing here, he was the King of England, and then Denmark from 1019, and Norway 1028. So England, Denmark, and Norway. Married to Elgiva, never consecrated, and to Emma, widow of Ethelred II. So he married Elgiva, which is also written here as daughter of an ealdorman, daughter, It seems to be that both the people to whom he was married were also married to his predecessor on the English throne, Ethelred the Unready, Elgiva and Emma. And Emma was Emma of Normandy. She was the daughter of the Duke of Normandy. That could be important because of William the Conqueror. It's not explained how it is connected, but that could be the important part. Children, he has with Elgiva 2 sons, Hereford and Sven, and with Emma, Canute and 2 daughters. Okay. On the death of King Ethelred the Unready, who gained his name from playing a waiting game with the Danes, including bribing them with money to stop their raids, there were 2 rivals for the throne, Canute, who was Danish, and Edmund Ironside the Saxon. Edmund Ironside was the son of King Ethelred, and Canute was the king of a Viking king. And Ethelred the Unready, the Saxon king, the English king, had tried to bribe and also to fight, attack, and so on, with different methods to go against the Vikings. No one was successful. The Vikings grew in strength. After Ethelred II died, the Vikings and his son Edmund the Ironside were fighting for the throne. After several fierce battles, the 2 claimants agreed to a peaceful settlement by sharing the kingdom between them. Ironside died soon after, leaving Canute as sole king. Both had fought battles. Ironside died soon. Canute became the sole king of England. Canute married Emma of Normandy and divided his kingdom into 4 earldoms: Northumbria, Mercia, East Anglia, and Wessex. By this means he hoped to have 4 loyal lords guarding his own and the interests of England as a united country. A religious man who also understood the usefulness of a church, Canute encouraged the spread of Christianity and appointed both Saxon and Danish priests to positions of trust and authority. So he divided the kingdom into 4 earldoms: Northumbria, Mercia, East Anglia, and Wessex. Hoping to having here now in each of them a loyal lord working on his interests and also the interests of England. He was he had a Christian faith, and he knew how to use the spreading of Christianity and the influence of the church in his kingdom. He appointed Danish and Saxon priests into positions of authority and trust. 1027, he attended the coronation of the Pope in Rome, which indicates the degree of his acceptance by the center of universal spiritual power and, therefore, by the church in his own country. And he even in 1026 traveled to Rome to attend the coronation of the Pope in Rome. He treated both Saxons and Danes equally and tried to make laws that would be acceptable to both sides. On his death, much of his work was undone as his sons Hereford and Hereford competed for the kingship. The next thing is directly Battle of Hastings and William the Conqueror. Okay, let's look if we find in any indicators how these 2 things are connected. Now, his 2 sons became at one time on the throne. They were competing for who is the king. The 2 brothers died in 1040 and 1042. Hastings was 66, over 20 years later. He was succeeded by Edward the Confessor. Edward the Successor is again the son of Ethelred the Unready. Okay. After the Saxon king Ethelred the Unready, his son Edmund Ironside was battling with the Viking king Canute for the kingship. The Viking king war king for 20 years, 19 years. After him, his 2 sons were battling for the kingship, but then again the son of Ethelred the Unready of a Saxon king became king, Edward the Confessor. Then Edward the Confessor married Edith, the daughter of Godwine, Earl of Wessex. He established a connection that was to prove troublesome. Edward had married the daughter of the Earl of Wessex. That was a problem. Having quarreled with Godwine and exiled the family, Edward promised his succession to the Duke of Normandy. Did he also exile his wife, the daughter of the Earl of Wessex, and his children, which he had together with the Earl of Wessex, to Normandy? He later changed his mind and supported the cause of Harold of Wessex to the English crown. Okay, it became when Harold the Saxon king, the king on the throne. That is the one which was then overthrown by William the Conqueror. Because it was unacceptable for William of Normandy in 1066 and prepared to claim his rights and overthrew Harold of Wessex. Ethelred dies and his son Edward I and Canute fight for the kingdom. At the Battle of Ashington in Essex, Canute defeats Edmund and they agree to divide the kingdom into two. Canute controlling the north and Edmund the south. Canute north, Edmund south. Edmund is murdered. He did not die, he was murdered. And Canute is chosen to rule as king of all England. Okay. The Battle of Ashington in Essex. That is more on the south. Essex. Yeah, a little north of Kent. So in Essex there was a Battle of Ashington. There Canute and Edmund Ironside were fighting. Edmund loses. They are agreeing on dividing the kingdom. Edmund is murdered. And Canute rules then whole England. Canute marries Emma of Normandy, the widow of Ethelred II. Canute divides England into four elements: Northumbria, Wessex, Mercia, and East Anglia. Living dies and is succeeded by Ethelwulf as Archbishop of Canterbury, 1027. William the Conqueror is born in Normandy. Okay. Is William the Conqueror maybe the son of Edward the Confessor? Parents, Robert, Duke of Normandy, and Herval, a tenant daughter. No, he is the son of the Duke of Normandy, Robert. William the Conqueror is born in Normandy. Canute makes a pilgrimage to Rome to demonstrate his alliance with the church and attends the coronation of the Pope. In addition to his existing kingdoms, Canute becomes king of Norway. That was Denmark, England, Norway. Canute dies at the age of 40 and his huge northern empire disintegrates. Invaded England, William the Conqueror, because Edward the Confessor had drawn back from his promise to give William the English crown on his death. Or was he just promising that, without any line of inheritance, just for help or because of a threat or something? Was he just promising that for another reason? No inheritance at all. Just based on a promise made him by Edward the Confessor. After William had protected Edward during a period of exile in Normandy. Edward the Confessor had been a period in exile in Normandy, and that made Edward the Confessor to promise the throne to William the Conqueror. Edward the Confessor, is here something written? Edward the Confessor, the son of Ethelred II, became king after the two brothers, Harold and Sven, had died of King Canute. And Edward married then Edith, which was the daughter of the Earl of Wessex. That established a connection that was to prove troublesome, okay? Having quarreled with good wine and exiled the family, Edward promised his succession to the Duke of Normandy. It sounds as if Edward the Confessor had exiled good wine, and not as if Edward had been exiled, which is here labeled. But that's not completely part of King Canute. We are preparing a presentation about King Canute. But let's try to have it as clear as possible. We can't really make out who is exiled by whom with the Earl of Wessex part, but we have it. Ethelred II's son became, after the two brothers Harold and Sven had troubled around who becomes the king of England. He was at some time been in exile in the Normandy under the protection of William the Conqueror, and he promised him therefore the throne. But then Edward the Confessor changed his minds and gave Harold of Wessex, Harold the Saxon king, the English crown. And we have never told Harold of Wessex, Harold. No, he's not written with Harold. It could be that Herod has no connection to, as well as William the Conqueror, that Herod the Saxon king and William the Conqueror have no connection to Edward the Confessor. It seems like that. Okay, we have a story clear whether it's a connection or not. Instead of giving as promised William the Conqueror the throne, he changed his mind and gave it to Harold of Essex. William the Conqueror wasn't fine with it. He invaded England and conquered England. Wait for the whole story. The meeting of Edward Ironside and Canute on the Isle of Elney in West Severn in 1016, when Canute invaded England in 1015, Edmund led the fighting against him. In 1015 did he came. Ethelred died in 1016. He came in 1015. Okay, when already Ethelred already was living. Edmund led the fighting against him. However, the people apparently felt that he was a rebel against his father. Ethelred we already found, for he found it hard to gain a following without his father's aid. But that's not completely part of King Canute. King Canute came, yes, in 1015, fighting. Okay, I think we don't have time. I think we have a story. In the next part, we're going to go shortly over all the things he said. We have a story of King Canute. He came in 1015 already. We're going to look closely what is written here exactly. Then we're going to tell what happens with King Canute, how he ruled with the church, and the things whom he married, how he came to the throne, and his succession to his two sons, which wasn't working, going to Edward the Confessor, promising to William I during a time of exile, giving it then to Harold, which William I wasn't accepting, William I invading. This is a story. We're going to go over 2-3 facts the next part again, and then we try to make a presentation about King Canute. If you stay here and participate in the stretching, then it's better you ask. And we don't have proper time left. And we are having the feet standing together, and open the front foot and the upper foot. Heels, heels, toes, toes. And back in again. This time stay down in the knees. Up again. A bit apart, breathe in the outside. Out, go to the side. In and up. Out to the other side. In and up. Out one arm down and stretch to both directions. In and up. Out, stretch to both directions. In and up. Out and down. Shoulder circles. Back. Up. In, forward and down. In and down. Back and down. And the arms up. And we reach always with one arm high up. And lean onto the knees. Breathe in. Out one shoulder foot. In and back. Out the other foot. In and back. Out and leaning down. Breathe in. Out, go out to one leg. Breathe in. Out over to the other leg. Breathe in. Out into the middle. Allow the feet. Breathe again in. Out. Again in. And out comes slowly the round back up. Make it to the backwards, the shoulder. And toes to the outside. Breathe in the outside. And out and sink down. Place the elbows against the insides of the knees. Breathe in and straighten up. Then out and come with the back up. Breathe in. Out and down. In and straighten up. And out, come up. Hands in. Legs apart, the finger down. And out. Throw shoulder blades together. In and up. Out and down. Breathe in and close the legs. And again out. That was a short and stretching. Thank you very much. And until the next time.